With us today. All right. Good morning. Happy Mother's Day to the mothers among us. Whether you are here this morning in person or whether you are joining us from at home, it is wonderful for all of us to be together. And as we settle in for the hour, let's pause to center our minds and our hearts for worship. And we begin with the words by the Reverend Michelle Collins. Here we are together, bearers of imagination, creators of new worlds. It is our imagination that lifts us beyond despair, that whispers, "What if?" and dares us to answer. Today we gather to renew that spark, to embrace the power to dream. Come, let us imagine boldly and worship together.
It's time for us to light our chalice, the symbol of our Unitarian Universalist tradition. Charlotte Wallwork, one of our junior worship helpers, will kindle our chalice flame. In honor of Mother's Day, our chalice lighting words this morning are a longer piece than we usually share at this time in the service. The Mother's Day Proclamation by the 19th century Unitarian writer and activist, Julia Ward Howe. 40 years before Mother's Day finally became a national holiday, Julia Ward Howe and another activist, Anna Jarvis, pushed for the creation of a Mother's Day for peace, a day when the women of the world would come together to end war and create peace between the nations. This morning, I wonder if a mother in the congregation might be willing to read these powerful words. Okay, excellent. I had a joke already in case I had to read it.
Arise, all women who have hearts, whether your baptism be that of water or of tears. Say firmly, we will not have great questions decided by irrelevant agencies. Our husbands shall not come to us wreaking carnage for caresses and applause. Our sons shall not be taken from us to unlearn all that we have been able to teach them of charity, mercy, and patience. We women of one country will be too tender of those of another country to allow our sons to be trained to injure theirs. From the bosom of the devastated earth, a voice goes up with our own. It says, disarm, disarm. The sword is not the balance of justice. Blood does not wipe out dishonor, nor violence indicate possession. As men have often forsaken the plow and the anvil at the summons of war, let women now leave all that may be left of home for a great and earnest day of council. Let them meet first as women to bewail and commemorate the dead. Let them then solemnly take counsel with each other as to the means whereby the great human family can live in peace, each learning after his own time the sacred impress, not of Caesar, but of God. In the name of womanhood and of humanity, I earnestly ask that a general Congress of women without limit of nationality may be appointed and held at some place deemed most convenient and at the earliest period consistent with its objects to promote the alliance of the different nationalities, the amicable settlement of international questions, the great and general interest of peace.
Beautifully done. Thank you. Nothing gender appropriation here. And now, please stand as you're able for our affirmation by James Villa-Blake. This morning, Alistair Adams, another of our junior worship helpers, will lead us in our affirmation.
Please repeat each line after me. Love is the spirit of this fellowship.
Love is the spirit of this fellowship.
And service is its law.
And service is its law.
This is our great covenant.
This is our great covenant.
To dwell together in peace.
To dwell together in peace.
To seek the truth in love.
To seek the truth in love.
And to help one another.
And to help one another.
And now, let's stay standing for our opening hymn. If any of our junior worship helpers would like to join us up here to help lead our hymn, please come now and bring your hymnal. Our opening hymn today is number 1018, Come and Go With Me. The words are on the screen and also in your blue hymnal.
Where our
Good morning. I'm Steve Runyon, today's worship associate. Welcome to Morristown Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. Welcome especially to any newcomers, returning members, and anyone who joined us online today. If you're tuning in live on YouTube or Facebook, please say hi in the chat or comments. We are glad you could join us today. We're a community of many ages, but we all worship together. You can join us in many ways on Sundays, including online, here in the sanctuary, or from one of the many rooms in our buildings where we live stream our service. In particular, I want to draw your attention to our family room for families with little ones, which is located out the doors and to the right. The family room is especially great if you need a space to talk, soothe the crying infant, or get the wiggles out. Our service is live streamed there, so you won't miss a thing. Kids of all ages are always welcome in our services, but we offer childcare as an additional option for families with small children ages 9 months to 5 years. Parents, if you find yourself in need of childcare at any point in the morning today, please bring your little one to room 201 at the top of the stairs. Again, welcome. We're glad you're here today.
Young ones or young at heart would like to come forward for our story for all ages, you're welcome to do that. It might be a little easier this time if you sit more on the ground level than on the stairs, but either or. So our story today, come on up. We'll wait for all, There we go. So our story today is a story from ancient China, and it is a folk tale called The Magic Paintbrush. And so, once upon a time, there was a boy named Ma Liang, and he lived in a small village in China. Now, he was very poor, but he was also big of heart. He had a big heart, he cared about a lot of people, and he also had a really big imagination. He had all kinds of ideas about how to make people's lives better. And so, this young boy fell asleep one night, and as he was sleeping, an old man visited him in his dream, and that old man gave him a magic paintbrush. And the old man told him, use this magic paintbrush to help the less fortunate. And then something really cool happened when the young boy woke up. Do you know what it was? He still had the magic paintbrush, that's right. So he woke up and right there by his bed was the magic paintbrush. And so he took it up and he started thinking, how can I use this paintbrush to help make the world a better place? And so he went around his village and he started looking to see where are things hard for people? Where are some places where people are having a hard time living their lives? And he came upon an area of the village where the well had dried up and the people were very thirsty there. And so he thought a little bit, and then he started to draw, and he drew a big river through the town, and he provided water for all of the people there who were thirsty, and so they didn't thirst anymore, and they were able to draw water to irrigate their fields and things. But then when he came to the fields, he noticed another problem. He noticed that the people there were toiling away. They were working real hard in the fields, and they had these like little sticks and shovels and things, and they were trying to break up the earth, but it was really hard and was making it hard for them to plant their seeds. So what do you think maybe he imagined he could do to bring them to make it easier to plant their seeds? Got some ideas out here, I heard? Maybe some water, a shovel, some tools. Those are all really a tractor, a different era, but yes, lots of possibilities. But what he drew, what he painted for them was a big old cow. And that cow was able to pull the plow for the people there and help them to have a field that was tilled, and then they could plant their seeds and have a ample harvest later that year. And so he went around and he became famous in his village and then in the region for having this magic paintbrush. Now, in the village, there was a greedy man, and the greedy man heard about that magic paintbrush. And because he's greedy, he gets all of his money. He was a rich man, so he gets all of his money by taking things from other people as much as possible. And so he locked up the boy with the paintbrush, and And he took the paintbrush and he tried to paint things for himself. He wanted a big mountain of gold, and he tried to make this mountain with the paintbrush, but it didn't work for him. He did not have the magic. So he came to the jail where he had locked up the little boy, and he said, "I will free you if you paint for me." And the little boy was thinking, well, I really do want to be free. So he said, "Sure, what do you want me to paint?" And the rich man said, "Paint me a big mountain full of gold. The whole thing would be gold. But I want it to all be for me, so I don't want anybody to be able to reach it. So I want you to paint a big ocean around that mountain so that nobody can reach it. And I want you to paint me a boat so that only I can reach the mountain." So the boy painted all these things. He painted a big shining gold mountain. He painted a river all around it, and he painted a little boat that the man was able to use to get there. And the man went away across the ocean and never came back. Maybe he was still there enjoying his heaps of gold all by himself, or maybe a big wave had come and taken his boat. We don't know. He was gone from the village. And so the boy then was free with his magic paintbrush again, and he was able to go around and continue looking to see what were some of the ways that he could use his paintbrush to make the world a better place and make people's lives a little bit easier. And so why do you think I'm telling this story this month? Because imagination is our theme. That is correct. And so last week during our service, we talked about how imagination can help us, how we have to free our imaginations so that they can be as wild and free and creative as possible. And this week what we're doing is we're talking about how a freed imagination can actually help free us from the things in our lives that make life difficult. So just like the boy in this story, once his imagination was free, he was able to imagine solutions to problems like the lack of water and how hard it was to till the fields. We can also use our imaginations to help free us from some of the things that make it really hard for us to live our lives in our own world. And so we're going to talk about that a little bit more in the service. But for now, go ahead and go back to your seats, and thanks for coming up to listen to my story. Getting my stuff in order here. So it's time for our service now for our milestones and passages. You know, sometimes we come to this place with a lot on our hearts. Life can be like a beautiful rose. It has sweetness and softness, but it also has those thorns sometimes. Perhaps you got married. Maybe you lost a job. Maybe you recovered from an illness, or perhaps you're going through a divorce. And children can have joys and sorrows too, things that make you happy or sad. And whatever your age and whatever the roses and thorns of your own life, you can share them here in our service by filling out our milestones and passages form before 9 a.m. on Sunday morning. That form can be found in our newsletter, and we also have paper forms located on the table on your way into the sanctuary. And we have a few milestones and passages to share today that people have submitted, so please respond after each by saying we hold you on our hearts. And for those of you who are online, you can join us by speaking in the chat or in the comments. This morning, Bob Scott and Irene Mendelson are happy to announce that their daughter, Elisa, and her partner, Mike Hill, are expecting a baby in November. We hold you in our hearts. Arlene Shapiro transferred to the Oaks at Denville for continued rehab. You may remember that she had a stroke back in March. Visits and cards are welcome. Kathy Solu shares that her mother, Regina Marie Van Sickle, died on April 27th, 2025 at the age of 98. Also, Kathy's brother-in-law, Warren L. Harvey, died on May 1st, 2025. We hold you in our hearts. Bob Calafiore is on hospice care due to chronic lung condition. He enjoys receiving calls on his cell phone and cards of love, strength, and encouragement. And if you would like to send cards to Arlene, Kathy, and Bob, you can find their addresses in our Realm directory, or up here there's a piece of paper that has their addresses on it that you can reference after the service by our chalice. Let's go ahead now and take a quiet moment for the prayers and meditations of our own hearts. This is a time to go ahead and close your eyes, settle yourself into your chair. Take some time just focusing on your breathing all the way deep down into your belly. Let yourself hear the breaths of the people around you, of this community that is holding you. Feel the spirit of life, which is sometimes referred to as breath, holding all of us in this still moment. And let's go ahead and take 3 deep belly breaths together and then a moment of silence. Amen and blessed be. Now let's go ahead and remain seated as we sing number 1031 in your blue hymnal, Filled with Loving Kindness. And I think this one may be a little bit more new to us, if I'm correct. This one is not the new one. Apparently there's one that's new to us today, but I don't know which one it is.
Our reading this morning is from a poem by the 14th century Persian poet Hafiz. Light will someday split you open, even if your life is now a cage. Little by little, you will turn into stars. Little by little, you will turn into the whole sweet, amorous universe. Love will surely burst you wide open into an unfettered, booming new galaxy. You will become so free in a wonderful, secret, and pure love that flows from a conscious, one-pointed, infinite light. Even then, my dear, the beloved will have fulfilled just a fraction of a promise he wrote upon your heart. For a divine seed, the crown of destiny is hidden and sown on an ancient, fertile plain you hold title to. Oh, look again within yourself, for I know you were once the elegant host to all the marvels in creation. We come now to the time in our service where we pause to offer our gifts of financial support to this congregation. Your donations make all that we do possible here together and also help make our wider community a better place, because each Sunday we give at least half of the money we collect to an organization that is doing good work to advance our Unitarian Universalist principles of love, justice, equity, transformation, pluralism, interdependence, and generosity in a world that hungers for them now more than ever. Today's offering will be split 50-50 with the Family Promise, transforming the lives of families and individuals by serving our community through all stages of life to prevent or end homelessness and housing insecurity. You may give in our collection plate or by following the instructions printed in your order of service and shown on the screen. Thank you in advance for your generosity.
new pope was elected this past Thursday. Pope Leo XIV is an American, and so many people around the world have wondered what that might mean in today's political context. As an American, will he align with the Trump administration's goals? Goals that many feel sharply restrict human freedom, especially for historically marginalized communities here both in the United States and around the world. And that question may have been answered in the Pope's first Mass, in which, according to the New York Times, he pledged to align himself with ordinary people against the rich and powerful. Yes, yeah. And in his first homily, he explored the things that we turn to in difficult times. In confusing, painful, and sometimes scary times, we might turn to things like technology, money, success, power, or pleasure for security, he says. But he argued that these things cannot save us, cannot free us from the things that threaten and diminish life. In fact, placing our trust in these things can lead to a loss of meaning in life, the neglect of mercy, appalling violations of human dignity, the crisis of family, and so many other wounds that afflict our society. And he lifted up a vision of what humanity can be if we liberate ourselves from the false promises of technology, money, and power, and instead place our trust in something more worthy. We are called to become a city on a hill, he preached. That city is marked not so much by the magnificence of her structures or the grandeur of her buildings, but rather by the holiness of her members. And by placing our faith in the right things, we can become that city on a hill. Now, to be clear, the Pope had a different understanding of faith, of what is worthy of our trust and of our allegiance than most of us here in this room perhaps do. For him, Jesus is the only one that we should place our faith in, the only one who saves us. And holiness, the new Pope said explicitly, involves imitating Jesus. He said, thus he showed us a model of human holiness that we can all imitate. Still, we might share some of his conviction. Unitarian Universalists often speak of trusting in the spirit of life, which we might think of as all that gives, sustains, and transforms life. And we might think of holiness not so much or not only of imitating Jesus, but as living in a way that serves life and that enlarges the great common life that we all share. And can we create a better world by doing that? The city on a hill? I think perhaps we can. Last week, I mentioned attending the Dover May Day event with a few of you, actually. And as we marched through the streets, we chanted, "Another world is possible." And the Spirit of life is inviting us, calling us to bring that better world into being. But as we discussed last week, bringing a new world into being requires something. It requires imagination. And not just any imagination, but an imagination that has been freed, an imagination that has been freed from the influences that limit what it is that we imagine, freed from perhaps toxic allegiances to technology, money, success, power, and pleasure, allegiances that our society has somehow tricked us into adopting as though they are truly our own. And our imaginations don't just need to be freed from these things if we are to build a better world. They also need to free us from these things. They need to liberate us and create the possibility of something more life-giving than we now experience. Our imaginations need to free us from all that chains us and to free us for a more life-giving, a more just and sustainable world that the Spirit of life is inviting us to inhabit together. That world is calling out to us. And so what will we do in response to that call? And we will explore that more here soon. But first, let's go ahead and pause as we do here to sing together before continuing today's sermon. Have us all stand as we're able. We're going to sing number 1040, Hush. It is in your blue hymnal if you like the music there in your hands. And of course, the words are also on our screen. And any of our junior worship helpers who would like to come forward and help lead the hymn are welcome to do so. Just please bring your hymnals with you. Our Unitarian Universalist faith teaches us that, as Theodore Parker once said and Martin Luther King Jr. later echoed, the moral arc of the universe is long, but it bends toward justice. Or as we sometimes say today, we bend it toward justice. We religious liberals come from the social gospel tradition. The social gospel tradition teaches that we can create heaven on earth through our individual and our collective efforts here in this world. And yet there are times when it can be hard to hold on to that belief. We are nowhere close to inhabiting heaven on earth right now. All it takes is a glance at the news to know that. There is a painful gap that we experience between the world that we long for and the world that we actually have. And it's not just a gap, but there is also a fence trapping us on this side of that gap and preventing us from just leaping across. And so what shall we do? How do we get free? A few years ago, one of my colleagues, the Reverend Nato Hollister, led a workshop about social change. And one thing that he lifted up is that in order to create a better world, we need to build communities that model the kinds of changes that we want to see. And he said there is a certain way to change the world, and all you have to do is fill in the details. But what kind of details do we actually want? Now, I don't know about you, but the details are what actually get me into trouble. That is when I sometimes get a little bit lost. Some people say that the devil is in the details. I don't know about that, but sometimes I do find that despair is in the details. Sometimes when I find myself trying to imagine what a better future could look like, to fill in all of those details, I end up instead thinking about all of the things that are currently wrong with this world. Those things just crowd and occupy my imagination, and then I begin to despair that we will ever reach that better world. After all, there's so much that needs to be changed. And thus, I don't end up imagining a better world at all. Not really, not in detail, certainly. Instead, it remains a vague, amorphous thing, an impossibility. Impossible because in those moments, my imagination is running wild and telling me all of the ways that it is impossible. But it also seems impossible, too, because it is hard to create what we cannot imagine. And that is why they say that hopelessness is a failure of imagination. Now, don't get me wrong. Yes, building that better world requires awareness of social problems. It's like the story that I shared earlier. The boy had to face the problems in his community head on in order to paint the solutions. But we still need something else in order to create a better world, something more than just awareness of the problems to be solved. We also need a vision of what we hope to create on the other side of all of those problems. When those social ills have been solved, what becomes possible for us? And that is what we need to be able to imagine. A clear, concrete vision of what a better world could look like is a powerful thing. It can restore our hope, and it can inspire our efforts, even drive them. When I'm feeling cynical, it helps to remind myself of a better world that is so compelling that it reignites my desire to create it. And a couple of years ago, I read a wonderful little novella called A Psalm for the Wild Built by Becky Chambers. I'm wondering if anybody else here has read that book. Got a couple. And I encourage you, if you ever get a chance, to read it. And when I first heard about this book, I admit that I was kind of reluctant to read it. Novellas are not really my cup of tea, and this particular genre was not really my cup of tea either. You see, although I am a science fiction and fantasy fan, as you probably could guess from last week's sermon and the other sci-fi ones that have popped up here and there, my preferences still tend to drift more toward dystopian science fiction and epic fantasy. And in those two subgenres, we tell stories where there are enormous stakes for the characters and for their worlds. In some ways, those kinds of books are compelling because they reflect the world in which we live, albeit in fantastic ways. And so it can be satisfying to read about how the heroes work together to overcome obstacles and defeat evil. Well, A Psalm for the Wild Built is not like that at all. It is a slender little novella about a monk living in a peaceful future world with very few social problems. And the book belongs to a genre that you may never have heard about before, a genre called solar punk. Yeah, solar punk. Now, Wikipedia defines solar punk as a literary and artistic movement that envisions and works toward actualizing a sustainable future interconnected with nature and community. The solar represents solar energy as renewable energy source and as an optimistic vision of a future that rejects climate doomerism. And the punk part of solar punk refers to the countercultural, post-capitalist, and decolonial, there's a mouthful for you, enthusiasm for creating such a future. Now, although the book didn't at first appear to be my normal cup of tea, it ended up being very much my new cup of tea. And why? Because it presented a compelling vision of a beautiful world, a vision so compelling that I was inspired to try to make that future a reality in any way I could around me here in my life now. And I don't mean inspired in just an intellectual or an emotional sense, although that is a part of it. I also mean that I was inspired in a really hands-on way. The book fired up a desire in me to roll up my sleeves and to take action in all kinds of new ways. And we'll explore some of them in a moment, but first let's go ahead and sing together again. We're going to remain seated for this one and sing just verse 3. That book that I read a few years ago, A Psalm for the Wild Built, provided such an inspiring vision for what a better possible world might be like that it started actually changing the way that I thought and acted in our world. And mind you, it didn't do this instantly. At first, all I felt was a sort of yearning for that better possible world illustrated in the book. And that longing was accompanied by a cynicism for a while as I thought about the vast gulf between our world and the world in the book. It seemed far too utopian at first to be remotely realistic. But then I started to realize that none of the things in the world of the book are actually missing from our world. We too have solar panels and wind farms. We too have the ability to build with biodegradable materials that won't be left on our planet generations after we're gone. We too have areas of wilderness that are set aside and protected. These things are not utopian. They really exist. They're just not widely distributed in our world. And that is when the vision of the book's better world became truly compelling to me, because now it was a better possible world, not an impossible dream. I could actually imagine it. And I realized that there were things that I could do to help bring that world into being. And this book lifted up this beautiful vision of how people might live in harmony with nature in a futuristic society. And at one point, the main character, the monk, a tea monk, visited a village where people were especially careful not to overturn the forest floor more than necessary. And the people there understood that the forest floor is home to countless creatures. And so they tried to balance their needs for things like trails and a cleared space for the market with the needs of the local plant and animal life to have an undisturbed forest floor. And they worked hard to consider what truly counted as a necessity. And I was so inspired by the book and the vision of a society living in harmony with nature that I decided to go camping. Or in my case, I decided to go glamping in a cabin at an urban farm. But I wanted to be closer to the natural world, so that's what I did. And while at the cabin, I found myself sharing space with a little eastern phoebe bird. And she had built her nest up in the rafters of the cabin's front porch. And every time I stepped out the cabin door to visit the trails, to go to the campfire, or to visit the cabin's porch kitchen, this poor little bird just fled in terror. And at first I thought that this was sad, but there wasn't much I could do about it. She had built her nest in a very inconvenient place. It was right beneath the place that I needed to walk. But the vision in the book kept gnawing at me. I began to question my needs and to try to balance them with the little bird's needs. She needed a restful place to care for her eggs. I needed access to the kitchen. But it occurred to me that I didn't have to walk directly under the bird. I could go the long way around to the kitchen. There were staircases on both sides of the porch, and I could use one of them to walk around in front of the entire cabin and back up on the porch on the other side so that I was well away from the bird. Now, was this ideal? It was not. Sometimes it was raining, and that made the stairs slippery, and although I'm a figure skater, we really only skate well in skates. And the porch stairs lacked handrails, so in those times I prioritized my need to prepare dinner without slipping, and I went the short way to the kitchen. And yes, the bird flew away during those times, but she came back. And when the stairs were dry, I prioritized the bird's needs. Sometimes I didn't feel like going out of my way just to make some bird comfortable. But then this vision of the world in a psalm for the wild-built kept reigniting my desire to try. And I kept asking myself, if you can't even do this small thing for this little bird that you are kind of in community with right now, how can you make the world that you dream of a reality, which requires so much more of us? And so this vision kept reigniting my desire to try in my own little way, in our own imperfect world, to help live that better world into being. Friends, we don't yet live in a beautiful, sustainable, just world like the one in the novella I read. The better possible world that we dream of has not yet come into being. And yet it is in the process of coming into being, even in the midst of injustice and environmental devastation. It starts coming into being when we imagine it. It keeps coming into being when our nagging imaginations spark action in us. It continues coming into being when our actions carve spaces in this imperfect world, however small, for a new world to take root. So this week, I encourage you to spend some time imagining in as much rich detail as you can the better possible world that you dream of. What does it smell like? What does it look like? What is there? Who is there? Read books, watch movies, listen to podcasts, or do whatever it is that you do that helps you visualize what that world might be like. And take a little bit of time jotting down the details of the better world that you envision. Paint them if art is something that helps you explore your imagination. Talk with your family and friends. Let yourselves dream together. May our visions of a more just, compassionate, and sustainable world call out to our hearts and our minds. And may they move in our hands, inspiring us to take creative action in service to a compelling possible future. Amen. Blessed be. May it be so. Now let's go ahead and rise once more as we're able to sing. I invite our junior worship helpers, if you would like to come up, any of you, you're welcome to do so. We're going to skip verse 4 and sing just verse 5.
Before we close, I'd like to draw your attention to our Minutes for Ministries. This is a time when we share brief updates about our congregation's activities to help us stay engaged with our community beyond our Sunday services. This morning, I'd like to draw your attention to the following announcements. Any newcomers with us today are invited to fill out a welcome card to help you get connected with us. You can also talk to our welcome ambassador who would love to meet you and answer any questions. Look for the sunny gold sash. Anyone needing a caring presence this morning will find a compassionate listening ear with one of the lay pastoral care associates. You'll recognize them by their sky blue sashes. Will the welcome ambassador and lay pastoral counsel? There you go. Okay, thank you. Newcomers, I'd like to draw your attention to a special class that we offer beginning tomorrow, Monday, May 12th, just for you, Starting Point. This 4-session weekly class will help you answer the question, with all that this fellowship has to offer, where should I begin if I want to nurture my spirit and deepen my connection to this community? After today's service, we will have several great options for you. Join us in the library to create postcards for the Environmental Voter Project, in Room B to nurture your spirituality through writing for our UU Writers class, or in the Terrace Room for the new monthly Buy Nothing event with Mutual Morris, an opportunity to give and receive gently used items and connect with your neighbors. Full details about these and many other activities can be found on the back of your order of service, our weekly e-newsletter, or on our website at muuf.org. And now I would like to ask Paul Firm to come up and tell us what he's got to tell us.
Thank you, Steve. I'm Paul Firm. I'm president of the Board of Trustees. And I just have a quick blurb of the Unitarian Universalist Association, of which we are a part, has a General Assembly every year. And this year it's in Baltimore, June 18th to the 22nd. So there are opportunities to meet virtually or in person. It's really an in-person event, but in the modern era, there are virtual and hybrid events. And you can go to the uua.org website to register and see what's available there. And there's an early bird pricing by May 15th. So I'm bringing this up to date because for, among other reasons, you can be a voting delegate if you are from this congregation and are attending. And please, if you are planning to attend, reach out to myself or Nan Perigo, our president-elect, or Jean Kraft, our Secretary, or Reverend Sasha, and we can get you credentialed to vote on the issues and the procedural issues that come up at the UUA. So it's happening this year, and thanks for a quick minute.
Okay, any other announcements from committee? Yep.
Hello, I'm Kim Dunmental from the Fund Team. I just wanted to announce this Thursday we are going to have a screening and discussion of the movie Conclave. It's very topical, as you know, and I'm sure we're going to be discussing Pope Leo. The movie is not just a political drama. It has a very controversial ending, and I'm told that Pope Leo and the Cardinals had actually seen the movie, and I would have loved to have been the fly on the wall when they were talking about this. So anyway, the way it's going to work is at noon on Thursday in the new classroom, we're going to be screening the movie and then have a discussion. You could just come to the discussion if you've already seen it. Then at 7 o'clock, we're just going to have a discussion for those who couldn't see it at 12. And then now the movie is available on Amazon. So you're welcome to come at 7. And then I had a bit of interest for a Zoom evening meeting. So if we get a few more, we might go for that. So please let the Fund Team know. And we would love to see you. RSVPs are, encouraged. And just bring your own beverage and snack. Thank you.
I am Charlotte Walwork, and I will be starting a book club for rising 6th graders through exiting 8th graders. The meeting will be the third Thursday of every month from 7 to 8. The interest meeting will be on May 29th, also 7 to 8. Grown-ups are invited to the interest meeting if they are interested in being a chaperone. We hope to see you there.
It's time for us to bring our time of worship to a close, and although we extinguish our chalice flame, its light will continue to burn in our hearts. And as we go out into our daily lives, I leave you with the words of the Reverend Kimberly Quinn Johnson. Hush, somebody's calling your name. Can you hear it? Calling you to a past not quite forgotten, calling us to a future not fully imagined. Hush. Hush, somebody's calling your name. What shall we do? Amen. Blessed be, and go in peace.